Woohoo! And we're live once again on another Tuesday, and I have a special friend and guest in the house. I have Michelle with us here today. So, Michelle, before we get stuck in and talk about our topic, could you please tell people who you are and what you do, and we'll get chatting.
Absolutely. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everybody. I'm Michelle B Griffin, all the way from Pensacola, Florida. I'm the brand therapist. What the heck does that mean? We're going to talk about that today. But essentially, what I do is personal branding, PR, speaking, and consulting, working with women leaders and founders to really help them stand out, stand apart, and really rise up with their presence, their profiles, and all the things. Essentially, I'm here to help you put yourself out there and make your unique mark on the world.
Woo! That's awesome. I love that. That's a great, great intro and overview of who you are and what you do. And just for everybody, I'm going to go ahead and just read out our topic today. So it is building your brand on LinkedIn. The brand therapist is in. I just thought that was such a clever headline. But I love that you're the brand therapist because, to be honest with you, Michelle, that kind of kicks it off. It's like you are positioning yourself as a therapist, which kind of, to me, I have a psychology degree. So that means somebody who's going to help you, will listen to you, will counsel you, our therapy session is in. So it's just wonderful. It's wonderful. So before we kind of do anything, can we just define a couple of terms first in
Yes.
terms of and by the way, everybody, please look at Michelle's bookcase because she has her book in the background. And we are going to talk about that today because she
Yes.
literally has written the book on branding, the
Yes.
LinkedIn branding book. And you're the co-author with Michelle
Yes.
J. Raymond.
Yes.
And so let's define your brand, personal brand, business brand. Can you kind of get those terms clear for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the brand therapist, just to define that too, and why I branded and positioned myself almost a year ago, because I needed to differentiate among other personal branding strategists. Because one of my things is I really help people get some perspective. I have a whole framework and I help you really kind of put a mirror to you and see all the goodness and get it out, listening, all those things. So that's one of my differentiators. I don't just get out there. We get to kind of get you out of your head and get you on the way. And then I have my brand GPS framework, but it's all about the brand. And a brand is so, so important in this day and age. We need to stand out and be top of mind. So a brand is the connection, the emotional tie and the relationship that someone has. It's very intangible. And, that's why people just race to say branding's like colors and fonts and all those things. That's a part of it. That's the visual part, if you will. And we break all this down very nicely in the book. But a personal brand is someone like who the person. I always say a personal brand is not really, it's of you, but it shouldn't be about you. Like the way I do personal branding, foundational, it's all about you're getting out there with your zone of genius, all dialed into who you are and really to solve problems for that someone you're here for. So we want to definitely know you. So a personal brand is a person who is, positioning themselves as that. Personal branding is the act of branding for a person. I actually like the term personal positioning because personal branding gets a bad rap. It's misunderstood, misused, all those things, but it's a search term. So we go with that. But a business brand, the whole reason why we wrote the book, among others, is to bring in the power of your personal brand with your business brand. So the brand of your business is how it, your services, your products convey that with your audiences. So having the power of the two is what Michelle and I wrote about, using your personal brand and your business brand in conjunction to multiply your effect, especially on LinkedIn. It just, it just makes it even faster and greater when you do, and you combine the two because they have power together. But this was a high-level overview, but the book has chapters all about it and defining it and what it isn't. And we kind of get a little gritty in some areas and what some of the cliches that we sometimes see here on LinkedIn.
I love it. I love it. And one thing, first of all, I love your book. Highly recommend it to everybody out there.
Thank you.
And what I loved about it is, first of all, you said it's the book you guys needed when you started. So it's almost like here you are today. You looked back and said, okay, this is what we needed. So how about we just shorten the learning curve for everybody else and learn from us? And, you have two. And in my opinion, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it actually equals 3, because the power and the exponential growth that you bring together, the business side, the personal side, it's just a lovely, lovely combination. But also too, you added in the workbook.
Mhm.
And I think people don't realize how valuable that is, because you can't just read about this stuff and say, okay, I got it. And off you go. It's like, then you read something, you got to roll up your sleeves and you got to think, how does this apply to me? So when you talk about differentiating yourself, you're right. There's a gazillion people out there doing branding.
Mhm.
So how do you say, okay, so what makes me special? So what's a tip to help us so that we can say, how do I step out of the sea of sameness from everyone else and position myself a little bit different?
Oh, that's a great question. And love that you brought up the workbook because it's almost 50 pages and it really follows the exact book. We included it for free. You can do it and really do these self assessments. And one of the best tips, and what I like to do when I do my personal branding work, is I have assessments. And I, of course, ask all these questions, but we really need to know our strengths, right? And what lights us up. It's kind of like the Japanese term for your reason for being, which is your ikigai. But I have 4 assessments. I'm always, shouting out, go do these assessments and kind of see, they help you make sense. Like when I've done, I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense to me. So we can link in the show notes, but essentially they're all free. One of them is 16personalities.com, and that's a free version, Myers-Briggs. There's the high5test.com, which gives you your top 5 strengths. There is the Enneagram, which I'm one I love. And then there is one on core values. So we can link those in the show notes, but start
Awesome.
there because, we're more than our job title. We're more than all the
Mhm.
things that we just sometimes lack the self-awareness and the identity, just going through the motions. So take some time to really say, what are my strengths? What do I really want to lean into? So I have a brand clarity trifecta where you have to really get in your internal clarity, your external clarity on who you're here to serve, all their problems, and then the professional clarity is the third leg of that. So the positioning comes from 1 and 2. So I think that would be, it's hard to personal brand someone on this show, but
Right,
I
right.
think taking these little assessments, they're free, will give you some clues to start the process. As you said, action. So stop thinking about
Yes.
it and start taking action. Now, I am not pointing fingers because inaction is my middle name because I'm a recovering perfectionist. So I can totally identify, but I knew the minute I started taking action is when things change and they do fast. So that's my biggest tip there too.
I love that. I love that. And it's true. And I know a lot of taking action is sometimes just breaking it down into small steps so you're not overwhelmed. And you can
Yes.
just say, okay, what's that one little thing I can start with? And I think sometimes, like you said, the self-assessment is a really good way of helping you figure out that stuff. And I know I'm a huge fan of the 16 personalities. I'm an INFJ. And once I understood how INFJs tick, I was able to take that and apply it in a business perspective and say, oh, that's why I'm good at this. And this is why this sort of stuff, it doesn't appeal to me. So it really helped me define who I am. And that's kind of where the whole easy peasy came from me. But it makes so much sense. So let me just ask you a question. When you talk about brands, and we talk about LinkedIn, and immediately I think of businesses. I think of big businesses. I think of small business owners, the one person solopreneur and the small businesses and everything else. But what about job hunters? What about like employees? What about somebody who's sitting here going, okay, I lost my job. Do I have a brand if I'm a job seeker? Like what do we say to those folks?
Absolutely. Now, a lot of people just say back off because they hate the word branding. Like we're not, but it's essentially your online presence, your positioning. How are you
Mm.
positioned in the business world? So career branding's a thing, leader branding, founder branding, all these things. And this book applies across the board to everyone, right? So you can follow these steps and the workbook helps you to take that action. But absolutely. So you're not just, blended into that sea of sameness. You want to be known for that one thing. Position yourself powerfully position yourself for where you want to be. I always like to say, own your brand, build your brand, own your future, because it's an asset. As you say, changing jobs, it's also an asset when done right, that it will take you everywhere. It doesn't matter what job you're in. Your personal brand goes with you everywhere, and the way you position yourself and all the surrounding things you've done to build on that. So absolutely, if you're scared of the word personal brand, think of it just as getting that online presence done so people absolutely know you, trust you, you're seen as the expert you are, and get the opportunities you want and deserve.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Nicely done. Nicely done. So let me just hop over and see if we have some comments today. I know we have. And so let me. Part of my brand is bringing my people into the show every week. So I like to do that because it's I always consider it one big party. So we have Jeff Young here who says Gillian and Michelle ready and watching from the front row to learn from the brand therapist. So it just
Hey, Jeff.
and it's wonderful. Thank you, Jeff, for being here. And I love that you have that phrase, Michelle, because you own it now. Like, I don't know if you actually, trademarked it or anything, and that would be an interesting thing to talk about too. But I love it because it's like, if it's so easy to explain you. And it's like with me, people just go, oh, she's the video easy peasy person. It's like they just say it and then later remember who I am, my name to go with it. So that's great. How did you actually come up with the brand therapist?
Okay, funny story. And I did apply for a U.S. trademark office, USPTO. So those could be a year, 18 months. So we shall see on the brand therapist. Okay. So I do have one pending, and we shall see. But okay, so last year, Michelle is also my power partner, co-author, co-host of the LinkedIn Branding Show. And I was just saying, Michelle, I just feel like I'm floating in the sea of sameness. Everyone and their brother in 2022 just started putting up personal branding just because it was like the, word du jour. And so I really was kind of struggling with that. And so she helped me say, Michelle, going back to your strengths, you're just so good at listening, and you'll say this and say that. It's kind of like a brand counselor. I'm like, you mean like a therapist? Because that sounded more, I think in America, a therapist sound. And she's like, yeah, that's exactly it. And so lo and behold, that was that. And I think it was a year, November 2022. And immediately I'm like, I'm owning that. And so I went and changed everything. And you're right. It's the top of mind. I can't tell you how many times people just say, oh, I love that. It's so cool. I get a lot of feedback on that. So people remember that. They might forget my name, but they remember that. And so like the brandtherapist.io, I have that website. And now, I've established it over a year. So if you punch it in on Google, I come up. And then, so that's really helped me get some, business from just Google too. So, and then the podcast and the talk show and all that is branded as well. So once you want to own what you are, I'm very encouraging to kind of cross-platform align it so that that name recognition just sticks, right? And that's what we want.
Brilliant. And I know we have Mary Wu here, who she has been using a phrase, the LinkedIn whisper. Yes. So again, somebody wanting to take something that like, oh, what does that bring to mind? And it's almost like an alt tag, like alt text. That's what these are for you. So I think it's just brilliant. So Mary, thank you for being here today.
Hey, Mary, good to have her. Good to have you. And I hope she's getting that trademark, because that's a brilliant one too.
That is a brilliant one. I hope she is doing it. So she says, oh, I have that book. And she says it's on her Kindle. And yeah, that's a great thing, is that the book's on Kindle. You can get it on paperback. So it's just amazing. You can have that. And of course the workbook as well. So this is great. And another thing that was very brilliant about your book is that you have all those QR codes that take the reader off to different things, resources and your podcast and all that sort of thing. So again, just brilliant that you thought it all through, even down to the colors.
Yes.
And I know like visual stuff is part of your brand too, but it's like, you've got the pink, you've got the yellow, you've got the teal, you both kind of marry each other in terms of of the pink coming together for different reasons. Yellow, where does a yellow come for
Yeah,
you,
no, well, yellow
Michelle?
is my color and the teal is Michelle. So, and then the pink was because it started off very much focused on women, and when it was born in January 2022 as an audio room. Oh yeah, yellow. So here's the thing. My favorite color is Kelly green. Okay.
Oh,
You can't see it, but there's somewhere in my bookshelf, there's this green old Reader's Digest book cut out in a Kelly green, one of those old cool ones, and an M. And I found it. And I love that green so much. When I did my office, I had my contractor paint the door Kelly green, but that didn't really embody what I wanted to be. I know my brand after doing all my own stuff. I needed to help people with the problem I solve is obscurity. So you're unclear and unknown. So clear, yellow is clear, it's bright, and it's empowering. It's the same kind of yellow as one of the emojis of smiling. I want to be friendly,
oh,
approachable. So all those things, when you're picking your colors, don't just go rush and pick a color. Know what your brand stands for, you want to embody, and then do that.
mm,
So recently I've just started to add tinges of pink into mine just to supplement and really help with the brand of Michelle Squared, because it's a big part of what I do as well in the book, of course. So your brand should reflect the connection and the feeling you want people to hopefully get from your brand.
I love that. I love that. And I think colors are so important. And I know that I picked purple as a part of my color scheme only because I love purple. It's my favorite color. But also too, from a psychology perspective, I've always thought of purple as the color of hope. And I always wanted to, part of being video easy peasy is I always wanted to give people hope that you don't always have to outsource. You can do
Yes,
it. You can learn something. So I
I
wanted
love
that
that.
feeling to come too. So, and I know blue stands for trust. And so, but I think you're right. Knowing the colors and then what is their personal significance and then
Mhm.
the psychology behind the colors as well too. So, and by the way, you look awesome in yellow. So
Well,
that's
it's
that's
hard
a
to find shirts, but I'm trying. But thank you. Yeah, it is bright and cheery, and people do say, "Hey, I love all your yellow." I get a lot of positive comments on that too. So you got to go with what works, for everybody, for the audience first, but then for yourself. If I
yes.
absolutely hated it, I don't think I would, have it. So there's a middle ground. So I love your
And
colors as well.
yes, yes, and I think that that's probably a part of everything, is part of your branding is you should not hate anything.
Hmm.
Like I remember once I was working with a company and they went out and worked with a specialty brand, a brand specialty place in New York, and they came back with like a definition, and it was like they gave it to me and I was doing courses for them, and they said you got to follow all these colors and the hex codes and the this and that and everything else. And I looked at everything and I went, "Ooh," like it didn't match them. And they said, "Yeah, we don't like it either." But they told us that this is like a power color and a this color and that color. And I thought, I would hate to
That's
have,
awful.
I know that's a strong word, but
Yeah, I
I
know.
would hate to be told this is what you will
Yeah.
use, even if you don't like it. And I was just like,
No, that's again, so how
oh,
can you own your brand and feel good about it and just really project that? So it goes both ways for sure. So, but yeah, so owning your color is tremendous. So it's very much going to be aligned with all that what we just said. So,
yes, yes, yes. So Jeff says, for someone who wants to create a personal brand, Michelle, what's the very first thing they need to do?
oh,
Mm,
that's a great question.
great question.
Yeah. So, besides all the self awareness stuff, let's take it back to even more. And this is one of the reasons, Michelle, we didn't talk about the brand squared system that Michelle and I developed. And the first one is mindset. I
Mhm.
will have people come to me and they're like, Michelle, I want to work. And then they'll kind of backtrack. So, you have to absolutely get the mindset straight. This is who I am. This is, I'm worthy. Tackle all the inner stuff first, right? And get really clear on why this matters and your goals. Because when you have that brand North Star leading you into then getting into your foundation and all that, you are going to know your bigger reason to do all this, that you're here for someone else and they need you and you want to step out as yourself, but not of you, like narcissistic and promotional, very much stepping out. And I really have a strong call of helping people put themselves out there, because my backstory in my previous role, it took me 5 years to get out there. And then when I got out there, I wanted to get on LinkedIn. It took me 9 months on the sideline, just looking, and I hate that. Like, my whole work is that there are people who are tremendous at what they do to help others, and they're just stuck, right? And so kind of get that mindset, kind of realize why you're here, and then let's get into all the foundational stuff. Those assessments would be a third thing. But I have a whole roadmap that I take my clients through, and I have my brand GPS framework that shows you step by step as well on my website if anyone wants to check that out.
Wonderful. 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 So we have Tina with us today, who is a fellow pink person. She did the happy dance when Barbie came on the planet because, with the whole pink, it was her color. She absolutely loved it. So she says, greeting from Belgium, taking action is the key. The workbook is very helpful. It is very helpful. Now, Tina is a recruiter. So I'm glad that we talked about job seekers today. So I'm going to put you on the spot for a second, Michelle, and I'm going to ask you, sort of thinking of Tina and her clients in mind, if you were a job seeker, what is sort of one tip that they could be doing with their LinkedIn profile to define their brand, to basically put it out there? What's one tip on your profile you could be doing?
I would say, if we're going to have to change anything, make sure that headline, the bio, which goes everywhere with you, right, really speaks to you, who you are, not just the, accountant, because that's just a million of us, right? Or I'm not an accountant, but there's many, many thousands or millions of those. So get really clear, do the pre-work to get really clear in that headline, and that will evolve a little bit. But I'm not 100% in the career space, but I know from our branding thing and positioning people that you need to get absolutely clear and nail that as best you can. There's tremendous tweaks you can do just by changing a little bit, and also forward face the good thing you want people to know. Where in the feeds are going a mile a minute, those 40 to 50 characters, depending on desktop or mobile. I see a lot of people bury the good, like in journalism, you bury the lead. They bury all the stuff toward the end of the headline bio, and you don't even get to, there's no differentiation there, if that makes sense.
That's excellent. That's excellent advice. And I love that, because we have to always be seeing things from that outward perspective of what, if somebody came to your profile and they were looking at it, it's like, are you telling them enough information about you? And, and I know sometimes, like, people feel, I don't want to brag. I don't want to feel like I'm bragging. So they kind of like, they play down. They're almost playing small. And it's very difficult to, kind of get out of that mindset. But you have to think about it. It's just like, if you weren't out there talking about your book, Michelle, and you just went, well, I wrote a book and now I just kind of I never mentioned it anywhere. If you took that attitude, might be somebody that says, oh my gosh, I didn't, it was a year ago. I didn't realize that book I wasn't on LinkedIn a year ago. So that's why I'm glad we're having this discussion today, because you came on my show when we launched the book. It was next month. It will be a year.
Absolutely.
And in a year, there's all new people on LinkedIn. There's all people who have, like, maybe they've changed, they pivoted. They're like, okay, like, look at your co-partner here, your co-author. She's in the middle of rebranding.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's not just for newbies, it's for people making a change, people who maybe they lost their job and now they're running a business. So there's many, many different reasons why.
And it's evergreen. Yeah. For the most part, it is evergreen. We wrote it without, all the things. So yeah. And it's one part LinkedIn, one part our stories. You can learn from Michelle. You can learn from my story. And it's action, with those podcasts, there's takeaways in the end of each chapter in that workbook. Because, on our LinkedIn branding show, every episode ends with, what's the actionable takeaway? I do that on my show too, because I really know the power of putting yourself out there, but you got to continue to do it. And it just grows and it compounds. But you're right. I think Michelle said, if I remember straight, our publisher said that she helps people publish books, and they never sell one copy because they don't want to talk about it. Now, what good is that? You've got to put your goodness out in the world. And there's so many ways to do that. You're not being spammy and promotional when you're truly here with transformation to get out there and help the people you're here to help, right? They need you. So look at it that way. I always like to say on everywhere I go, visibility is not vanity, visibility is being valuable.
Ooh, that's if we could say it's a tweetable. I don't know. Do we call that an Xable?
Fixable.
I don't
That's a good
know.
point.
I'd call it a tweetable. I still call it Twitter anyways. I don't care.
Same.
It just makes more sense. It just makes more sense. Okay, let's see who else we have in the comments. So we have Mary again. Someone else called me that. Sometimes our best ideas come from folks
Mhm.
that know you. And that's so true. It's like, and I know that a few people who were job hunters, they came to me and they said, I'm trying to figure out who I am and I'm
Mhm.
having a hard time analyzing it. So I was told to go and ask people, what
Mhm.
do you think about when you think of me? What comes to mind? So this is kind of talking about what you're saying, Mary, is that we echo back to people. And
Mhm.
don't they say, Michelle, that your brand is what people say when you're not in
Yes.
the room?
Yes. Yeah. The cliche saying of Jeff Bezos, it is essentially, but we can't see the frame of the picture we're in. We can't. That's why I like to say I hold a mirror and I help you see. That's why I'm the brand therapist. I wish I had me back when I was stuck for 5 years, right? Not the courses, credentials, and the certifications, which are good in their own right. But if you have no true clarity on who you are and where you need to go, because you can do a ton of different things, then it's stifling. And that's what I'm here to help.
Yep.
But to have conversations, another advice is start having conversations, coffee chats, and it'll just come up in a natural flow too. And also record it with fathom.video if you can, and
Hmm.
you can go back and mind the things you say. You would be so surprised in just a general conversation. I see this all the time with clients, what they are saying. I'm like, that you just said something that's just golden. You just framed everything we need to do right there. We don't self-edit. We're just in our moment. And so I know that that's another tip to kind of really glean some things about yourself.
I love that. And absolutely, that is so true. It's like you must record every session
Yes.
because there's nothing more heartbreaking when you talk with somebody and then
Yes.
they just go, I finally got it. That was everything. And then it's like you realize it wasn't recorded. And we're not going to remember what you said. So
Mm-mm.
it's like I do that. I record everything because I figure I can always delete it.
Absolutely. Fathom.video is a tip. I'm not an ambassador, but Fathom.video, it's free on Zoom, now on Google Meets, and I have it automatically hooked up. And sometimes even on discovery calls, even if someone doesn't end up working with me, and we had such amazing conversation, and I really want them to own what they said, I'll send it to them. Like, you've got it. Like, go here and then come back later if you need it. But you'll get the audio, the transcript, and the video. And then there's even an AI summary where you can just pop it, click the button and the AI will summarize it. So it helps you see what you don't see on yourself. Okay.
Oh,
And that's what we so
absolutely.
need for sure.
Absolutely. And I'll throw in, I'm the Otter AI fan.
Hmm.
And it was funny recently, the two of us, we met together and we both brought our AI. It's just like there was four of us in the meeting. So it was just kind of funny, but it's good because you're empowering yourself to have that transcript and to
Yes.
have those words. And, later nowadays with AI and all these tools, you can say, give me a summary. What were the
Hmm.
action items? Like we don't have to put things to
Yes.
memory anymore. And that is brilliant.
And
That's
that just,
brilliant.
yeah, expedites everything. So yeah, I have Otter AI and Fathom. Call them my two assistants, and one, I won't tell you which one always comes to work a little bit later than the next one on Zoom, but they
It's Otter.
eventually,
Otter's always
I
like,
know.
it's floating around or something like that because it's just like, I think it's coming. You're
I
just
know. It really hasn't let me down, but Fathom is my new favorite assistant. It's free, and I tell everyone I wish I was a brand ambassador, but I just really love to give people tools when I test them, and I know that it can help you. And with the work I do, it's tremendous. Even I'll tell clients, go listen to what you just said. Sometimes we intake things differently, listening versus
Mm,
reading. And they're like, right, oh my goodness, I said this, and you said this, and it just gave me these ideas. So that's what I'm trying to do is help people get unstuck, get out of their head, get unstuck, and get on their way as the brand therapist, because I
love
truly know
it.
how it feels. And the transformation when you do have that clarity, momentum, and the focus and the roadmap to get out there, it changes everything for you.
I love it. I love it. That's beautiful. And You are an excellent brand therapist.
Well,
So
thank you.
it's such a great phrase. So one last question. What would be like if you just kind of had to say what's the number one thing that you see people doing wrong? Just one thing that it's like, oh, this is such a common mistake on LinkedIn from
Oh
a
my goodness,
branding
that's
perspective.
I think I see people that could be a loaded question. Like we could write a book about that, right? That question.
Right.
There's so many ways to go in that. I think people, let's just put it for the context that people really kind of want to jump and link, like, I'm going to try LinkedIn. I hear it's great, all these articles, and it's the place to be, but they don't do a little bit of the pre-work. Now, I'm not saying you
Mm,
have to hire me or anybody, but just I like to say have some guardrails. And I
mm,
think I've done posts on like, here's 7 questions. Can you kind of answer this to get a little clear on where you want to go? So first is, know where you want to go and what your goals are in the platform, because a lot of people don't even realize it. They just jump. It's like jumping without having a parachute or something,
mm.
right? So having the guardrails, I think, will help you get out there and frame you to that. The idea is to be in that narrow lanes, as Bruce W. Waller, who's a connection of mine, and I have him in a lot of my presentations. I have this slide. He says, when you're in your lane, there is no traffic, and that's so true.
Ooh.
So do a little bit of the pre-work, and we mentioned some of the things here today: the LinkedIn branding book, the workbook, those assessments. Those are all the things, but truly, you are here to help someone and be a mentor or transform either in your career, your business, or whatever for someone else. Business is all about solving problems. So when you know essentially the problem you solve and how you're showing up to transform lives and people and all the things, then you're going to have a lot faster and funner time, if that's a word, on
Right.
LinkedIn. So that's my
Awesome.
2 cents on that high level question.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So we've pretty much got to the end of our time. It's like 30 minutes. It just zips on by. So is there any final takeaway that you'd like to leave us with today, Michelle, before we say goodbye?
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me. It's so much fun. Always chat. It goes like in 2 seconds. Listen, if you are on the fence and wanting to put yourself out there, get on LinkedIn, grab the book, listen to it, follow Michelle and I. We have that podcast. Know that you have expertise, experience, some message, some story, something that someone needs, and you have valuable insights that we all need to hear from you. So don't think what I have doesn't matter or it's all been said before. We need more fresh voices and people out there, no matter what capacity you're in. Just know that you are valuable and it's time to put yourself out there and make your unique mark on the world.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here today,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
Thank you for everybody who joined us. And we'll see you all guys next time. Thanks. Bye bye,
Thanks. Bye,
everybody.
everybody.